Africa, a continent of immense diversity, breathtaking landscapes, and ancient human stories. Deep within its southeastern embrace lies Malawi, often called the warm heart of Africa. It is a land of smiles where the welcome is as radiant as the sun. To understand Malawi today, we must journey back into the mists of time. We will explore the echoes of its earliest inhabitants and the rise and fall of its indigenous empires. This journey reveals a tapestry woven with threads of resilience, cultural richness, and an enduring connection to the natural world. The story of Malawi is a compelling chapter in the grand narrative of human experience. The nickname, the warm heart of Africa, speaks to a profound truth about the Malawian people. Their hospitality is legendary, their spirit generous, even in the face of hardship. This warmth draws visitors and researchers alike to explore its unique character. But beyond the immediate charm there lies a complex history, a story of adaptation and change. From the earliest stone toolmakers to sophisticated societies, this land has been a crucible of human endeavor. Let us now begin this fascinating exploration into the heart of Malawi's past. Long before written records, this part of Africa was alive with human activity. Archaeological discoveries paint a picture of early human habitation stretching back thousands of years. Stone tools, ancient rock art, these are the silent testimonies of those first pioneers. They were hunter-gatherers, intimately connected to the rhythms of the land. The Great Rift Valley, which cradles Lake Malawi, has always been a corridor for human migration and settlement. Over centuries, these early communities evolved, cultivating crops, domesticating animals, and forming settled villages. From around the 15th century, the Maravi Empire, a confederation of Chua-speaking peoples, began to coalesce. The Maravi Empire controlled trade routes and territory, developing intricate systems of governance, trade, and religious belief. The legacy of the Maravi can still be seen in the Chua language and cultural practices that endure today. The echoes of their reign still whisper through the land. The 16th century marked the beginning of a new era for southern Africa, as European explorers began to venture along its coasts and into its interior. The Portuguese, driven by ambitions of trade and empire, were among the first to make contact. They sought gold, ivory, and roots to the east, influencing regional trade patterns and power dynamics. Following the explorers came the missionaries, driven by a different agenda. In the 19th century, figures like Dr. David Livingstone journeyed through this land. Livingstone wrote extensively about the beauty of the region and the horrors of the slave trade. His reports stirred public opinion back in Britain, creating a moral impetus for intervention. The latter half of the 19th century saw increasing British interest in the region. Mission stations were established, providing education and medical care, but also imposing new cultural and religious norms. This period culminated in the formal declaration of a British protectorate, reshaping the economy and laying the groundwork for the modern nation-state. The imposition of British colonial rule in Nyasaland sowed the seeds of discontent among the indigenous population. The early 20th century was marked by a growing awareness of the injustices of colonial domination. Africans faced land expropriation, forced labor, and heavy taxation without representation. These grievances fueled early forms of resistance and a desire for greater autonomy. The Chilembwe Uprising in 1915, led by John Chilembwe, was a direct challenge to colonial authority. Though ultimately unsuccessful, the uprising became a symbol of resistance and an inspiration for future generations of nationalists. The period following World War II saw an acceleration of nationalist movements across Africa, and Nyasaland was no exception. The momentum for independence became unstoppable under Dr. Hastings Banda's leadership. His rallies drew enormous crowds, and his calls for kwacha, meaning dawn or freedom, resonated deeply across Nyasaland. The colonial authorities responded with repression, declaring a state of emergency in 1959 and imprisoning Banda and other nationalist leaders. However, this only served to strengthen the resolve of the movement. On July 6, 1964, Nyasaland gained its independence from Britain, and the nation of Malawi was born. Dr. Banda became its first prime minister, and later in 1966, its first president when Malawi became a republic. The early years of independence saw significant investment in infrastructure, education, and healthcare. Banda's initial popularity was sky-high, seen by many as the father of the nation. However, Within months of independence, a cabinet crisis erupted as several of Banda's ministers challenged his increasingly autocratic style. These ministers were forced into exile or detained. Banda consolidated his power, systematically dismantling any opposition. In 1971, he was declared president for life. Malawi became a one-party state under the Malawi Congress Party, and political dissent was ruthlessly suppressed. For nearly 3 decades, Dr. Banda ruled Malawi with an iron fist. The winds of change that swept across Africa in the early 1990s eventually reached Malawi. Growing internal pressure from pro-democracy activists, churches, and the international community forced President Banda to concede to a referendum on multi-party democracy. In a historic vote in 1993, Malawians overwhelmingly chose to end one-party rule. The first multi-party elections were held in 1994, ushering in a new era. Since 1994, Malawi has navigated the complexities of democratic governance. The country has seen several peaceful transfers of power through elections. However, the path has not been without its challenges. Issues such as corruption, poverty, and the need for sustained economic development remain significant hurdles. Despite the economic challenges, the spirit of the warm heart of Africa endures. The future of Malawi lies in harnessing its human capital, sustainably managing its natural resources, and strengthening its democratic foundations.